Greetings, my fellow Sanctimonians. Today we will have a longer discussion than usual. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. Micronationalism is a very interesting phenomenon for me personally. It's where people create their own nations that are not recognized by the global nations, macronations, yet those nations still are real. They're still sovereign nations to them. And I've always seen that the most active members of micronations usually are the creators of said nations. That people, if say, for example, you come from Nenoria, peoples who say, I'm Nenorian, are most likely the leader or his close allies. You never get to the point where the common person says, I'm Nenorian, for instance. I've also seen that most micronations are particularly isolationist in nature. They usually are very hostile to foreign nations, and I respect that. Sanctimonia was isolationist for a long time in its history. Sanctimonia has been through a lot, and being isolationist has protected it from things such as wars, such as all types of things. One other interesting thing about micronationalism usually is that most micronations I have seen are either dictatorships, monarchies, or some form of republics, right? I haven't seen other types of governments such as oligarchies, classical republics, kleptocracy, those types of things. I've seen essentially a lot of micronations are monarchies, because why would they be monarchies? When people create micronations, they think, oh, this micronation is for myself. That's why they create monarchies. They create dictatorships because they probably have some nostalgia to dictators of the past or think it's cool and interesting. The people who create republics are usually people who are not as active in their micronations and therefore give off more power to their supporters and members. Most micronations that I've seen are very liberal with the word war, right, which is waging conquest on other people or protecting from them striking you. And I think that's the wrong term to use, because war is when people die. Tell me the last time that a micronational conflict has led to the death of people. Perhaps one, perhaps two, I think, but it has never been more than that. It's always been nothing. No one has ever died. People use water guns to fight. People use Nerf guns to fight. People wage these wars. Most wars aren't even physical at all. They're online. They're just people spamming. I've talked about this in a previous video, where people take micronations very juvenile, and simply, it's strange. I also see many micronations seem to be also liberal with imperialism, conquering other people's lands, annexing them, making them territories, colonies, all types of things. And then those colonies demand independence from those owners, and more conflict erupts, and then the wars break out. I also think that's also a strange but interesting thing. Why do you even fight back at all if you could really create another Discord server, right? Because most of these servers are in Discord. Discord is where all the micronations are. It's really the platform, the foundation for all this. Micronations expand past Discord, like YouTube, other social media platforms. Don't do it as much, but still do the same thing, spamming people's comments, DMing them, etc. And I think maybe there is a different way of doing these stuff, such as warfare. Maybe it's just spamming comments. It's not a war. I mean, it won't affect them negatively in any way. Also, Another topic which I must discuss on micronationalism is micronational organizations, right? In the real world, or in the macronational world, we have the UN, the United Nations. Its goal is to keep peace between nations, right? In the micronational world, we don't have an official micronational peacekeeping agency. Sure, there are things such as the Micronational Assembly, which people don't use as much, or the peacekeeping agency of the micronation, but overall it's split, and most of these nations, they don't even do anything about territorial disputes. They don't do anything about any of this, actually. They just, well, what do? They just talk. And call it diplomacy when they talk about stuff. And I don't think talking can solve all these issues. I think you actually have to make change with the government system, with all those types of stuff. And the reason I think that they can't do that is because most micronations are online. They do not have real borders. That means that most micronations cannot actually change territory, exchange territory, lose territory, gain territory. They cannot do any of those things. They just get online territory. About micronationalism, right? But there's also a difference between micronationalism and Markovs. Markovs focus more on just existing, being a sort of government that's online. Micronations focus on physical territory. At least most micronations want to become physical in the future. Sanctimonia certainly does. We once had the aggressive leap forward, which was that in a few years we would have a castle or chateau where people could reside. We still have plans for that, of course, but the ALF is now not really working anymore. But what I have to say is that micronationalism, it embodies all these different spheres. It embodies role-playing, Markovs, real micronations, physical micronations, online micronations, micronational war, micronational physical war, diplomacy, peacekeeping, giving new titles to people, citizenship, people who actually take it so seriously that in fact their whole online persona is about it. And there's a difference between simulationism and real life, right? Most micronationalism, it's a simulationist thing. Most people who are, say, a dictator of a micronation, they do not actually expect that their nation is real. They do not actually want the UN to recognize them. Micronations, it's mostly a role-playing thing. Sanctimonia is a mix between that. We still want to become real, but we know most of this is a bit role-play. And that's something that can be fixed, that people need to recognize running a country is much harder than they expect. Even running a micronation is hard. Running a real nation, macronation, is much more difficult. We micronations do not have to face problems such as depressions, recessions, food shortages, droughts, famines, all those type of things. And that's why nations such as the communist nations can freely just do what they do, because in real life, most of these communist civilizations have caused famines, deaths of many people. But in micronations, nobody dies. So people can say, oh, I'm the general secretary of the Communist Party of this micronation. So yeah, that's what really I have to say. This video was longer than usual, as you see, but I think it's just very important to see that, and also say that people should think that people should know micronationalism is a very new phenomenon. It will have a big effect on the future, and who knows where we'll go. Perhaps it will go in VR, AR, augmented reality. Perhaps it will go to different planets. Who knows? Maybe we will play wars through games as many do chess. Yeah, but that's all I have to say. Goodbye for now, and long live Sanctimonia.